Welcome into Player Profiler News Prime Time on this fine Monday evening. I'm Mike Lindberg. I'm here with Jeremiah Retzlaff, and we're here bringing you the breaking news, everything you need to know to get your week off to a good start here in the fantasy football world. So let's get this show started. Stories of the week. Well, Jeremiah, if it wasn't for Jordan Addison and this time of year, what would we be talking about as our headline stories? Would we be talking about fluff or I don't know, but this guy is gotten into trouble again with the law here. He's got some speeding issues now, a DUI. What is happening in Minnesota with Jordan Addison, Jeremiah? Give us a lowdown, my man.
Well, we have Jordan Addison. He scrubbed his Vikings mentions and affiliations from social media. It looks like the Vikings and Jordan Addison are at a crossroads. The Vikings need to weigh the cost-benefit analysis of providing J.J. McCarthy another talented weapon in Jordan Addison versus will Jordan Addison make the much-needed change? Sadly, with the law of large numbers, if this pattern continues to be a trend for Jordan Addison, there could be a fatality, and we're not overreacting here. We've only reconciled this behavior to the off season. Who says Jordan Addison won't do something like this again during their bye week, on an off day, or just any work day? We saw what happened with Andy Reid's son leaving the Chiefs facility. Right? These are the sorts of things that ruin your life. Whether you serve time or not, whether you get leniency or not, that lives with you. These sorts of decisions don't take into account anyone else, nor does it take into account any other independent factor. The reason being, there is selfishness and no thought to begin with. Little murmurings are out there, rumor mill on X, that maybe Adam Thielen could end up being a cut candidate. Could he go back to the Minnesota Vikings? We saw videos of him with J.J. McCarthy working out. That would be something interesting to watch. And that would just be another level of diminishing some of what Jordan Addison has built. Now, on the flip side, were somebody like Adam Thielen to return to the Vikings, maybe it would help from a mentorship standpoint. So that's just the long and short on Jordan Addison. Time will tell with him. It really will tell with him because this has now been season over season, off season over off season. Now, Mike, something a little, it's still dramatic, but less drama in terms of how serious it is towards life. Can you give us a Brandon Aiyuk update? It sounds like he may be holding out. What's up with him?
Yeah, now it's even evolving even more. Like the saga continues, and what started as just, some disputes internally now is becoming, social media driven. There's a lot of speculation now, and his outlook is buzzing with uncertainty and drama following his trade request from the 49ers amidst contract talks that hit a snag. Aiyuk's eyeing that salary that's comparable to the top NFL wide receivers around that $30 million mark. He's voiced feeling unvalued despite his standout 2023 performance, ending the season with a league best 17.9 yards per catch, showcase his ability to capitalize on every opportunity, even competing alongside Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Aiyuk set the bar there. And despite trade requests, the 49ers seem reluctant to part with the 2020 first round pick. So Aiyuk is almost given no option here but to hold out. So we'll see what happens there. I think this is getting a lot more heated. There has been rumors about him going to a bunch of different teams. Amongst these potential suitors, the Pittsburgh Steelers stand out due to Aiyuk's expressed interest in playing there and the need for a reliable receiver alongside George Pickens. With ample cap space and the desire to strengthen their offensive arsenal, a new quarterback, Russell Wilson, and Pittsburgh presents a compelling fit for Aiyuk and his services. Washington has been the buzz so far in this situation, they have some caps flexibility as well, and they are seeking another standout as well beside Terry McLaurin. Aiyuk, we talked about this previously on shows that he has that connection with Jaden Daniels. That would add some intrigue. The Patriots is another team that would be interested in acquiring Aiyuk. That would address their long-term standing need of a primary receiving threat, particularly with quarterback Drake May entering the fold. New England's flexibility and cap space and history of making bold offseason moves positions them well as the contender if the 49ers meet any sort of trade requirements. The LA Chargers is another team that could benefit from Aiyuk's addition to that receiving core. Justin Herbert, we know, lost Keenan Allen, his longtime number one wide receiver. They need a playmaker that's capable of boosting their offensive potency. Aiyuk's ability to rack up yards after the catch aligns well in Herbert's skill set. That potentially makes him a pivotal asset for the Chargers' pursuit in that hard AFC West. And the last one, the one that would probably provide the most intrigue in fantasy football circles. And the other team here that I'm talking about is the Buffalo Bills. They present the most intriguing option with probably the only landing spot out of these teams where I can actually see Aiyuk's fantasy value increasing rather than decreasing like I think it would happen in the first four spots. But as Aiyuk navigates his contract situation, we know that there are a lot of trade suitors, but his potential for holding out is now gaining even more steam, and that would just be horrible for fantasy managers alike. And I don't like what that situation would bring to fantasy football. Obviously, Brandon Aiyuk was a top wide receiver last year, and it'd be a shame to have him go away. So if you're enjoying this show, don't miss out on more exclusive content. Subscribe to the Player Profiler YouTube channel at Player Profiler News. Follow us on Twitter at profiler_NFL and visit our website at playerprofiler.com/news for all the latest breaking news and impact on fantasy football. Stay ahead of the game with Player Profiler. Jonathan Brooks is on the NFI list. Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks, upside cases for the Carolina Panthers backfield. What's your take on that situation, Jeremiah? Where are they headed? Do you think that Brooks is actually going to start the season? Where are you feeling here?
So Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, two players that you can read about in our world famous draft kit. Go and check it out. A lot of great work from a lot of sharp analysts out there. Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard are two players that you want on your fantasy rosters in redraft. Go ahead and click both Brooks and Hubbard and profit. We don't always like to draft two backs from the same backfield because we will limit upside. However, when we know offenses will be run-centric, like Dave Canales, we can lay some bets on this Carolina backfield as a whole. Chuba Hubbard is a great advance rate player, meaning Hubbard will make sure you don't take zeros in your lineup in those first 4 weeks and onward. Hubbard offers flex appeal as well as contingent upside in the event Brooks gets re-injured or can't onboard enough. Chuba is going as RB51 in round 15 on Underdog. Now, Jonathan Brooks is a tournament-winning upside type of player. Brooks goes in round 8. Eliminate the injury, and we're talking about a round 3-4 ADP for Jonathan Brooks. Any dip that this NFI list designation will bring, go ahead and buy the dip on Jonathan Brooks. So if he falls to the 9th round, clickety-click. For Dynasty, Brooks has excellent value insulation a la Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta. The difference is that Penix has value insulation from the expectation that Kirk Cousins will be starting, whereas Jonathan Brooks, the Dynasty community, will not be harsh on year one recovery from a torn ACL. So there's value insulation there. Click on both your Carolina Panthers backfield players. Now, the other elephant, not quite the elephant in the room, but then there's Miles Sanders, right, in round 18. You can have a smattering of clicks for Miles Sanders, but really it's the Chuba and Jonathan Brooks show that you want to be interested in for 2024. Now, Mike, can you tell us, it sounds like Rashid Shaheed just got a nice new deal. There's some upside there for him. There's buzz in the streets in best ball. the Saints offense overall. What do you got for us on Rashid Shaheed?
Well, the Saints secure and steal Rashid Shaheed, a dual threat both as a returner and wide receiver. According to Adam Schefter, the Saints inked him to a 1-year, $5.2 million extension. The dynamic wide receiver and all-pro return specialist. This deal is a significant for New Orleans, given Shaheed's versatility in the return game and his emergence as a promising wideout. Shaheed is set to make waves in fantasy football this year, especially now that Michael Thomas is out for the Saints and out of that picture. Last year, Shaheed had some standout moments, finishing as wide receiver 45 in fantasy points per game and having several weeks where he ranked among the top 24 wide receivers. Known for his explosive style of play, he ranked 10th in average depth of target and 15th in deep targets, highlighting his ability to make those big plays. Clint Kubiak taking over as offensive coordinator. Shaheed is expected to be more involved across the board. He'll likely get more chances beyond just deep routes, which could lead to more yards after the catch. In previous seasons, he had just a 13.6% target share, and I'm looking for that to increase this year. Coming off a sophomore year where he set personal best in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, Rashid Shaheed's speed and ability and big plays resulted in some memorable moments. Shaheed is an all-pro, Pro Bowl returner, stands out in all formats, especially in the Scott Fish Bowl, where every 5 yards returns earns a valuable point. In Underdog Jazz, he's currently selected as wide receiver 53 in the 9th round. Heading into his 3rd NFL season, Shaheed aims to build on an impressive 2023 stats: 46 receptions, 719 yards, 5 touchdowns. Drafters can confidently expect Shaheed to outperform current ADP, particularly when paired with Derek Carr or utilized strategically in best ball formats, whether it's stacked with Carr or a potent week 17 matchup against the Raiders or chosen to stand alone pick. Shaheed promises great value in the fantasy football realm here. Now, Podfather is on the mic. He's talking about some injuries here. We got to talk about that right now. Let's go.
Hey, you're in your fantasy draft and someone says, hey, that guy's injury prone. I don't want him. And you're like, I don't know. I don't think you can predict injuries. Well, guess what? Now you can. Injury proneness is real. At Player Profiler, we have the data on these players, and it's all in the Injury Finder app. Their injury track record back through time, exactly where they were injured, how severe it is. We look at the BMI data, and we crunch it all together, and we give you probabilities that a player will miss multiple games this NFL season, as well as the complete database of NFL injuries and the ability to compare two players and look at their injury track record. The Injury Finder is powerful, and it's only $5. If it's worth it to have that peace of mind when you're drafting, go get it.
Because I think we're the only platform out there that provides a tool such as like the Injury Finder, and it may not be 100%, but it's hard to predict injuries, and if they give you the edge in your league, let's go. Now we're gonna be introducing a new segment to the show. Jeremiah and I are really excited to introduce Bullish Bearish, and we're going to take a guy that one of us is bullish on, the other one is bearish on. We're just going to extend on that. So this week, Jeremiah has chosen bearish. So let's go, Jeremiah. Tell everybody who you're bearish on this year.
So my bearish player, this will sound controversial, but I am bearish on Puka Nacua at his ADP. Now, Nelson Sousa, famous player in the industry, high-stakes player, Nelson Sousa always talks about you got to take stands at different parts of the draft. It's easy to be in on a stud player. It's easy to fade somebody at the back of your drafts. But sometimes to take a stand early on a fade takes some conviction, takes some courage, right? For me, I am bearish on Puka Nacua at his ADP. I have the cozy blanket 4.9% exposure on Underdog. Wide receiver 4 in 2023. Puka Nacua is an absolute baller. 1,486 receiving yards. That is to be commended. All right. In drafts, though, give me A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Marvin Harrison over Puka Nacua. Now, those are 4 players who are in that clump of ADP towards Puka Nacua, but that just gives you some insight into who I am clicking. My 4.9 exposure is one of my lowest in the first round. So give me those other 4 guys over Puka Nacua. Last year, it was a payoff from being a last round pick or a waiver wire pickup. Now Nakua's in deeper water territory in the first round. Psychologically, we anchor players we love for what they did the year prior. How can you not? With a late round darling, especially if you were the one who cashed in, right? You just have that joy. With a late round darling, there is an even higher affinity for guys like Puka Nacua. So from a teammate perspective also, I like the arbitrage I can get with Cooper Kupp in round 3. We have top 12 players who fall out every year with someone new emerging. So we have a new deck shuffled. There's a new 12 every year. There's some repeaters, but there's people who are in and out. Puka is the one who emerged into the top 12 this year. If I had to call it today, who will be out of the top 12 next year when we draft this time next year in 2025? I'd say CMC and Puka will not be first rounders next year. So that's my bearish. A little bonus there with CMC. So Mike,
Yes.
what do you? Oh yeah, say.
No. Go. Yeah.
Okay.
You were asking me a question. I was just,
Yeah. What do you think of that, Mike? Just your thoughts. Puka being bearish.
I think you're right on. I think it was hard for him to come back after, if you look at when Cooper Kupp was injured last year in the latter half of the season, when he came back, Puka's target share came down considerably, and he was still getting a lot of targets, but the target share went down, and it's going to be probably plateauing. Both those guys are going to be great players for fantasy football this year, but to draft Puka Nacua where he's going, I think it's going to be hard for him to upkeep that. We're drafting him at his absolute ceiling right now because I'm not sure he's going to be able to repeat what he did, especially with Cooper Kupp playing the full season. So we have to keep in mind that, when we go into the drafting, that these guys are going to be healthy for the whole season, and maybe double check the injury finder and see what the probability for Cooper Kupp is to finish the year, and then think about how many games that would be, and then understand that, Puka will probably, diminish a little bit as far as, his total yards, his touchdowns last year, he hit a decent amount of touchdowns, so that could regress too and go to another player. So, there's a lot of things on the table. He has to, continue at that pace that he was going last year. So, yeah, you're not the first person that has said that to me, and I'm on there with you. If his ADP was a little bit, less tight there, I'd be more willing to draft Puka. I think Puka is still probably a top 12 wide receiver, but you're drafting him in the top 10 easily, and I think that's going to be hard for him to upkeep with everybody else that is in different situations headed into 2024.
And also, this isn't necessarily saying that Puka Nacua will fall off a cliff, but
No.
it wouldn't be out of the range of outcomes to say, hey, at Cooper Kupp this year going in round 3, that Puka Nacua maybe goes in round 3 next year. So it's a fade at ADP, just to clarify. And then for Mike, you are bullish. We've heard a lot about Ladd McConkey. I love to hear as much as I can about Ladd McConkey, especially with the Chargers. They're so tight-lipped on how they divvy out some information. So can you tell us why you're bullish on Ladd McConkey for the LA Chargers?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I was bullish on Ladd McConkey even before he even, was drafted by the Chargers. I saw some very impressive metrics from his small sample size in college. So, I'm going to tell you why here. His college performance and efficiency, McConkey's collegiate career at Georgia, it showcased his reliability and efficiency. Despite being in a run-heavy offense, he maintained an impressive 75% catch rate and averaged 14.2 yards per catch with 18 touchdowns in just 39 games. His ability to maximize opportunities, coupled with his punt return skills, he averaged 13.3 yards per return, underscores his versatility and playmaking ability. The opportunity with the Chargers, they drafted him with the 34th overall pick to bolster their receiving core. With the departure of key targets like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, McConkey steps into a significant role in a Justin Herbert's passing attack. His route running and PPR magnet makes him a prime candidate to emerge as Herbert's primary target. His route running expertise, McConkey's ability and precision in route running have him highlighted in consistency. His ability to create separation, especially in short and intermediate routes, complements Herbert's strong arm perfectly. The skill set positions him as a reliable option for the Chargers' offensive scheme. His speed and athleticism, he's 5'11 and a half, 186 pounds. He's not the biggest, but he brings a blend of speed. He ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, and his agility that allows him to excel after the catch. His quickness off the line and ability to stretch the field vertically make him a dynamic threat in open space. The fantasy potential is there in football fantasy terms. McConkey's role as a wide receiver 3 in a PPR format is promising. His high catch rate, expected volume, and targets from Herbert in a pass-friendly offense, it bodes well for consistent fantasy production. The draft capital and comparisons being drafted by the Chargers as early as he did, he's being compared to, Julian Edelman and Wes Welker, but he has a much greater speed, and it's illustrated by his impact in the NFL. It will be good to see his rising stock, McConkey's ascent from being overlooked in the early assessments to now being considered a top prospect in this class reflects his growing recognition and potential impact in rookie drafts and beyond. So McConkey's combination of skills, opportunity with the Chargers, and statistical indicators make him an exciting prospect for the 2024 season. His potential to thrive as Herbert's go-to receiver in a revamped offense positions him as a standout candidate in fantasy football and a player worth targeting in rookie drafts. Ladd McConkey is a must-have on my roster due to his impressive college performance, the opportunity, strong route running, and a standout at his current price. I like Ladd McConkey, as you can tell, quite a bit. And what do you think on Ladd? What do you think his opportunity is going to be there? Do you think he's going to come out and be the number one guy like I do in the Chargers?
I think let's fast forward to week 6. You're sometime in October, right? Ladd McConkey will just be printing in PPR, and it may not be a wide receiver 1 level, but it might be that consistent wide receiver 3 into wide receiver 2, but the bullish arrow is up, and people will have that FOMO because that connection is there. When you mention those names of somebody like a Julian Edelman, he was somebody who got peppered with targets, and once the chemistry was there, you were happy to have him on your team because you knew it would be early, often, frequent. Ladd McConkey is a player who, let's say it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, you need a Godfather offer to acquire them. With Ladd McConkey right now, you're not going to get some kind of a Godfather offer. He's further down the list, but he is a player who could pop just subtly and then consistently every week. It may be a surprise, though, for these Chargers drafters because people fade the Chargers so much because, well, they're going to run so much with Greg Roman. But then drafters make a fatal mistake of drafting Chargers skill position players as if they will pass 0. So I like where your head's at on Ladd McConkey. I'm a big fan of DJ Chark real late, but Ladd McConkey's got the draft capital. He's the present, and he is certainly the future. So I like what you had to say there. I just want to shout out to the Player Profiler World Famous Draft Kit. We've been talking about that recently a couple times, and I just want you to all to key in on there's team insights, player analysis, cheat sheets. If you're showing up to your redraft and you just need something there with you and it's in person, it's just the drinks are flowing and you're making your picks and you need something easy, print out your cheat sheets there. There's valuable team insights, so you get a whole scope. Much like we do in our chef's table and our coach's corner, we like to break down the teams. Well, you get that in even more depth, and the numbers are sharp. We're pulling stats all the time from Player Profiler, and a lot of that goes into our player profiler world famous draft kit. So make sure you get that. And now what we're going to do, we're going to head into the coach's corner. All right, so here I am. I am going to present the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill is going 3rd overall in round 1. We had a combat zone of CeeDee Lamb versus Amon-Ra St. Brown a few weeks ago. Tyreek Hill could have easily filled in for its own in the wide receiver 1 overall debate. That could have been its own segment. Tyreek was number 2 with 119 receptions on 171 targets last year. Number 3. Okay, so those targets were number 3 in 2023. 23.5 fantasy points per game was number 2 at the wide receiver position. Tyreek was number 1 in target rate with 36.9%. Number 1 in target share, 33.7%. First in receiving yards. He had a real shot at 2,000. He was 1847. Tyreek played 16 games. So maybe he gets that 17th game. Look at Tyreek Hill's player profiler stats and metrics, and you'll see a ton of 1s, 2s, and 3s next to a swath of stats that we have. Jalen Waddle now, wide receiver 15, 19th overall in round 2. He was going 28th in round 3 on May 1st. On May 1st, on Best Ball Night School, Ed DeLauder and I did a progress report on the Miami Dolphins. So in putting this together, I've noticed there have been some shifts for some Dolphins. Some early Dolphins have crept up, and some mid to late Dolphins have actually crept down. And I'll speak to that a little bit later on some other players. So Waddle has hopped Achane from earlier in the offseason. Jalen Waddle is the contingent upside wide receiver that you want while still paying off at his ADP. Waddle provides spike week potential in best ball. The last 2 seasons, Waddle has had 75 and 72 receptions, respectively. In his arsenal is Waddle's rookie campaign, where he had 104 receptions on 142 targets. Waddle's ascension has been partially blocked by Tyreek Hill's performance. However, the narrow tree for the targets and growth into year 4 has me optimistic in drafting Jalen Waddle in every format. Now let's go over to Devon Achane, RB7 on Underdog, going number 23 in round 2. 7.8 yards per carry in 2023, 17.3 fantasy points per game, was 5th at the RB position last year. The knock is he played 11 games and can't stay healthy. When it is a diminutive figure and sleight of frame player, if we see injury, we label players as injury prone. Achane was number 1 in fantasy points per opportunity at 1.36. His run block rating was number 1 at 118. So the argument for being on or off the field doesn't involve blocking. Achane had a 43% snap share in his rookie season, an increase in increments of 50, 55%, up to 60%, and the ceiling is a roof for Devon Achane. So if he just incrementally gets more, he's going to go off. You need to pay the price to get the ticket to ride the ride. There's no way around it. Achane's steep price creates an early fragmentation between gamers who are in on Achane and gamers who are out. Directionally, where Achane goes, the results will be sharp. Raheem Mostert, RB28, 94 overall in round 8. He was 85 overall at the 7-8 turn on May 1st. So then there's been just a little bit of a drop for him. In 2024, it will all be about Mostert staying healthy or not, and his 21 touchdowns, which were first at the position. Will this number regress? My answer is yes. Mostert was number 4 in fantasy points per opportunity with 1.11. Mostert will provide volatile upside in the event the premium price Devon Achane misses time. Mostert had a 57.3% snap share in 2023. If Mostert is healthy, he's playing, and you want him in your 2024 lineups. Now, Tua Tagovailoa, going as QB15 on Underdog, 125 overall in round 11. He was 113 in round 10 on May 1st. So he's first in passing yards in 2023 with 4,624. He was 9th in deep ball attempts, 7th in red zone attempts, 2nd in yards per attempt, number 1 in accuracy rating, number 2 in deep ball completion percentage. Tua is a lot like Jared Goff and Brock Purdy. The offense is so electric, reflexive of the too many mouths to feed narrative is a rising tide lifts all boats. So the Dolphins' weapons lift Tua. And remarkably, since May 1st, we've seen an ADP slide for him. So keep gobbling him up. And I think Tua is going to get paid very, very soon. Jalen Wright, 157 overall in round 13-14. At the 13-14 turn, Jalen Wright was 141 in round 12 on May 1st. So there's another player on this Dolphins team that has dropped. Reality has set in for drafters that Jalen Wright is the third guy. Archetype-wise, Wright is best to replace Raheem Mostert. However, with reality setting in that week 1, when the NFL kicks off, it will be Achane and Mostert from the jump. I did look on FanDuel to see if Jalen Wright had odds for the rushing yards title. It wasn't posted, but to me, the astronomical odds would be appealing and fun to lay. So I'll keep my eye on that. Jonnu Smith, going off as tight end 23, 184 overall in round 16. Give Jonnu Smith the rock. Pass, rush, RPO, doesn't matter. Jonnu will display his unfair yak ability while defenses are in a blender covering the Dolphins' weapons. OBJ, 211 in round 18. OBJ isn't a season-long player to roster. OBJ will pace for the playoffs and a Super Bowl run. Does OBJ play 6, 12, or 17 games? That's the question. My guess is OBJ will play the most in the stretch run. Now take in Malik Washington, 214 in round 18. He was 199 round 17. The OBJ signing changed things. I love Malik Washington in Dynasty. Year 1, though, my expectations are in check. And then in round 18, Jeff Wilson Jr., Braxton Berrios, Taj Washington, Chris Brooks, players that I'm really not out here drafting. So that is my coach's corner on the Miami Dolphins. Mike, what do you think of that?
I like it. I like it a lot. I like your take on Jalen Wright. I like him. I think that, people were getting concerned about Jalen Wright being drafted by the Miami Dolphins, that he was going to, affect Devon Achane's draft stock. No, they're completely different players. Jalen Wright is literally a clone almost of Raheem Mostert with his size, his speed. I just love that compliment there. They just got a younger Raheem Mostert on their lineup, and it's just going to take a matter of time before Jalen Wright takes over that spot fully. And I'm really high on Jalen Wright headed in. I like that landing spot with the Miami Dolphins. I think that was probably one of the best landing spots he could have had, just based off of his speed and where he came from. And his combine showed out a lot. And I was really high on him before the combine and after the combine even more. And now that he's a Dolphin, I'm not worried. You got to be a little bit patient with these rookie running backs. But these are the guys that are going to step up and win you a league at the halfway part of the year. These rookies that are going to come in, they're going to be slowly, brought in, learning the lineup, learning the system. And then, halfway through the year, these rookies is where they start, winning championships for people. So keep your eye on guys like Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, are two guys. Jalen Wright is another one. Audric Estime is a guy that I'm really high on. He's gaining a lot of steam right now. We talked about him in depth on numerous ones of these shows. And people are like, the Javonte Williams, they're now this is, I think, the conversation that is splitting people this year is the Estime, Javonte Williams. Now last year there was a big one. I think it was, I don't remember what the big debate was. And I don't remember what it came out, but this year I think it's the Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, and it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. I'm high on Estime, and we all know that. So these are the guys that we're going to be later on. Now let's serve up the Bills. So today I'm going to get into the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to break them down, and that's on today's Chef's Table. So let's get into it. Yeah, so the Buffalo Bills, they've emerged from nearly 2-decade drought to secure double-digit wins consistently, yet their quest to Super Bowl has been, just trampled by formidable opponents like the Chiefs and the Bengals. Not so much the Bengals, but more so the Chiefs. But as any successful team, maintaining momentum comes with its challenges. The Bills are no exception headed into 2024. They have significant changes and have reshaped their roster and coaching staff. Head coach Sean McDermott boasts an impressive 73-41 record over the seasons he's been the head coach there, steering the Bills through their resurgence. Joe Brady, known for his pass-heavy approach, joins them as the offensive coordinator, bringing a 52.6 pass play rate, ranked 31st in the league. Key acquisitions include Mitchell Trubisky. New wide receivers are Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mac Hollins, and they drafted that rookie we all know, Keon Coleman from Kentucky. And Kentucky running back Ray Davis. Despite these transformations, the Bills and Bills Mafia can find reassurance that they have an elite quarterback leading their charge. And we're going to break down that right now. So Josh Allen, I talked about him last week in depth. I'm not going to hit him too much. I'm still pretty high on Josh Allen into 2024. He's going to be taking a bigger, he's going to be shouldering more of that offense. I think it's going to be a more run heavy approach in 2024 for the Bills. So, people were really concerned about the opportunity for Josh Allen to keep, that 15 touchdown rushing. And I think that has an opportunity of happening again in 2024 with not so many weapons around him in the passing game. So as far as their running backs go, we know that James Cook came into his own when Joe Brady took over as the offensive coordinator. He finished as the RB11 in PPR points from week 11 onward. Despite inconsistent snap counts exceeding just 60% in just 2 games during this stretch, Cook averaged an impressive 19.6 touches and 104 yards per game. His involvement in the passing game skyrocketed as well. He was always known for that coming in, and we had high hopes. I think now James Cook is coming into his own. He ranks 16th in the league in target share, 11 points among qualifying backs post week 10, and placing in the top 10 for routes per run. So that's a huge indicator that he's being heavily involved. And I think that's going to happen again. I think he's going to be a safety blanket this year for Josh Allen. He has challenges in the red zone. We all know that. Last year, there's concerns about his usage near the goal line. He's not that big of a back. And we talk about Ray Davis. So I think he's going to come in and take on that kind of goal line role. And I still think that James Cook is going to have a good season, regardless of who they bring in as the goal line back. He's going to have a lot of opportunity in that offense. And there's a lot of optimism in James Cook. Right now, he's a solid RB2 option. He has clear RB1 potential like he showed in the latter half of last year in the Joe Brady offense. Fantasy gamers can draft Cooks with confidence at this stage, knowing that, he's got consistent yardage, the occasional explosive performance. Monitoring his, goal line and red zone usage is always going to be crucial. But if he can, snag a couple of those ones, sky's the limit for him. And now let's get into these wide receivers, because this is what everybody's really intrigued about with this Buffalo Bills team. Keon Coleman, drafted in the 2nd round by the Bills, begins the season with potential, standing at 6'4", 215 pounds. Coleman brings physicality and a talent for contested catches. His college career at Florida State, he demonstrated progress. He highlighted by a strong junior year with 50 receptions, 658 yards, 11 touchdowns. He is supported by Brandon Beane and the opportunity to vie for targets in a Josh Allen offense. Coleman aims to carve out a role in Buffalo's passing game. I think he's a project. I think he's going to be maybe a later in the season addition that he could gain some potential value in fantasy circles. I just don't think he's going to start off this season in that manner. So be patient with Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir, he emerged toward the end of 2023. He exceeded expectations and had some notable performances despite, fewer targets than Stephon Diggs. Shakir outpaced him in receiving yards during the Bills' final stretch, showing that they committed to him. His ability to maintain a high catch rate at 88% and significant yards after the catch positions him well as a value-based wide receiver 3 and full PPR formats. Now the versatile veteran coming in is Curtis Samuel, and I think he is the guy that is going to lead that wide receiver group for the Buffalo Bills. That's just my hunch. His 2023 season was underwhelming, but Samuel's previous success under Joe Brady in Carolina underscores his potential impact, securing a 3-year deal with the Bills. Samuel aims to rediscover his form and contribute consistently alongside Josh Allen. His ability could prove crucial in an offense that values versatility and playmaking ability. Now, we're talking about that tight end room, and there's a lot of optimism headed into 2024 for Dalton Kincaid, a promising second-year player, and veteran Dawson Knox is well in the mix. But Kincaid, drafted as the top tight end in 2023, he showed promise his rookie season, especially when Knox was sidelined due to that injury. During that stretch, Kincaid saw a notable increase in production, 7 targets per game, 6.5 receptions, and 56 yards receiving on average. And he scored a couple of touchdowns to boot. So we're looking at a good change here for the Bills. I think they're going to lean more on Kincaid in 2024. And we all know the Podfather in the last couple of pods that I've listened to from him, he's really, really high on Kincaid as potentially being the number 1 tight end headed into 2024. So when the Podfather says that, we got to really open our eyes. So that got me digging more into Kincaid. And I just think that the Buffalo Bills are going to use him a lot. Without Stephon Diggs, Kincaid has that increased opportunity. I just think that he could see over 110 targets in 2024, making him a really good, optimistic play if he could stay healthy. Fantasy gamers should view Kincaid as a potential top 3 tight end with considerable upside, making him a valuable pick at his current draft position. So as the Bills gear up for this exciting 2024 season with significant changes to their roster and coaching staff, despite their recent success, they face ongoing challenges in their pursuit of a Super Bowl. I think they had their window last year and the year before. They might have missed it, but they're looking to continue to go. You can't count a guy like Josh Allen out. New additions like Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel bring optimism, and with Kincaid, becoming a key piece in that offense, there is still optimism there. They're in a division that's always tough, but the Bills seem to know how to win games late in the year, and I think they're going to be able to do it again in 2024. Now, let's recap last week's Combat Zone there, Jeremiah, where we had a poll. And do you have the information there? Can you bring it up by chance, or are we just going to I'll just say it right off the hop here.
Yep.
All right. So last week, our Combat Zone was we had the widers. No. Last week was
it was Hurts versus Allen, and I needed a tush push to get through. I was losing my voice. It was something else. I think off the top of my head, I believe Jalen Hurts took it, and then Josh Allen was number 2. And it was a close poll. What I've noticed too about these polls is with the 4 options, we spoke to earlier today, Tyreek Hill, and we had one where we did Amon-Ra versus CeeDee Lamb. Well, Tyreek Hill could have easily been that player. So it is funny, at the very top, it does get crowded. And whether it's Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, they're both excellent clicks and excellent picks. It's very interesting, though, to see where the fantasy community lies on a given day. And it's funny, with these polls, it'll be interesting to see if we revisit end of the year where the public is. They may lie, but the outcome could absolutely be different. And I like to think, though, that the 4 options that we lay out, one of those 4 each week will end up being the number 1 player at their position. So that's been my take on last week's Combat Zone. How about for you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. We're giving some flair here. We're giving some outside perspective, and yeah, like I'm excited to see it go down. So without further ado, let's hit up Combat Zone. Let's go.
It's go time. It's go time. It's go time. We going up. We go.
All right, Mike, I'll take it first today. Bijan Robinson. We're going Bijan Robinson versus Christian McCaffrey. The Atlanta Falcons drumbeat sounds like an echo. Why is that? We hear bullish reports about Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and of course, Bijan Robinson. What the coaches say and what the players say are in alignment. So when 32 beat reporters post something a reporter says, and it sounds familiar, a lot of it is due to the coaches and players being asked the same thing separately. When the coaches get asked about Bijan, it is all about how he won't leave the field. When Bijan gets interviewed, it's Bijan talking about his CMC role in 2024. So Bijan will be the 2024 RB1 overall in fantasy. Bijan was RB9 in 2023, while he was 3rd in target share, 1st in routes run, 2nd in route participation, 3rd in targets with 86, 5th in weighted opportunities. The Falcons will ride the Lamborghini in 2024. Bijan Robinson did all that with Tyler Algier taking valuable snap share away from him. Bijan Robinson won't lead the field in 2024. Bijan Robinson will be the RB1 in 2024. What do you got to say to that, Mike?
I got to say is that you got to dethrone the king, and the king is undoubtedly the top choice for the overall number 1 running back in fantasy football. Yes, I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey, and his versatility truly sets him apart. Over the last 2 seasons, he has excelled as both a rusher and receiver, hauling in 152 receptions. 152 receptions. This is a running back here, folks. The second highest among all running backs. This dual threat capability makes him exceptionally valuable in every sort of league. Durability has also been a major plus for McCaffrey recently. He hasn't missed a game in over the last 2 seasons, alleviating any concerns about his ability to stay healthy and deliver consistent fantasy production week after week. This reliability is crucial for fantasy gamers investing in a top draft pick, ensuring a dependable starter who avoids the pitfalls of injury. On the field, McCaffrey's numbers speak for themselves. In 2023, he averaged a career best. Yes, in 2023, Christian McCaffrey, career best, 5.4 yards per carry, while amassing almost 1,500 yards and scoring 14 touchdowns on the ground. And he added an impressive 7 catching touchdowns through the air, totaling over 2,000 yards from scrimmage for the season. His ability to break big plays was unmatched. 48 runs, 10 plus yards, the highest in the NFL as per PFF. Playing in Shanahan's dynamic offensive system further boosts McCaffrey's fantasy outlook, with a quarterback like Brock Purdy leading the charge and receiving threats like Deebo Samuel in the mix. Defenses are forced to respect the entire field. That not only opens up scoring for McCaffrey, but also prevents opponents from keying in solely on him. Looking ahead, McCaffrey's role as the linchpin for the 49ers is secure. The team's commitment to extending his contract until 2027 underscores their confidence in his ability to deliver elite level performance. Christian McCaffrey, poised to reclaim RB1 spot in 2024 drafts. His unparalleled versatility, 2 seasons of 152 receptions, impeccable. Durability there. Standout choice as your number 1 running back in 2024. McCaffrey's dual threat dominance and durability make him the clear number 1 RB in 2024. That's why I think that he's got the opportunity. I'm going to go with the guy with the proven track record in a stable offense that we know is potent. And yeah, I'm on Bijan this year. I'm on Brees Hall. I think it's going to be a very competitive top 3 or 4 running backs in the NFL this year. But until someone shows me that Christian McCaffrey can be dethroned, yeah, he's going to have to. You're going to have to step up the game here. So that's my take.
Well, I would say, I talked earlier about how I feel like CMC, with my Puka bearishness, that CMC won't be in the first round next year. But we have to understand CMC is an absolute baller. And Mike, while I have taken the Bijan side, I just know if I need a lawyer, man, I'm calling you because you made and laid out a great case for Christian McCaffrey there. Folks, if you're enjoying the show, don't miss out on more exclusive content. Subscribe to the Player Profiler YouTube channel at Player Profiler News. Follow us on X at Player Profiler or at Profiler_NFL, and visit our website, playerprofiler.com/news. Get all the latest breaking news and its impact on fantasy football. We got a lot of people, sharp people on there giving the news and actionable, salient advice. So I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. We've had a good growth for our audience. So thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Yeah. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.